Okay. All right, so a couple things on notation for this. There are a couple different ways that different, like, textbooks or problems will be presented. Sometimes you will see these problems written like this. You'll see F plus G in parentheses, and then it'll have another set of parentheses with an X in it. What this means is that you're adding F of X and G of X. Same thing if you see a minus sign there. If you see it written like this, it means F of X minus G of X. You might see multiplication written like this. It might just have the F and G next to each other, or it might have like the dot in between it, or what it really means is you're doing F of X times G of X. Make a note right here maybe, or put a star next to this. This is important. If you see this little open circle right here, not the closed circle, this one right here, the closed circle, that just means to multiply. Okay, if you see that open circle, that's composition of functions, and you need to tell me that I have put a problem on there that you don't know how to do, because we don't have to cover this in Math 3. It is not a standard that we have to do, so this is different, and that's all I'm going to tell you about it right now. It's something you may see later, but we don't have to do it in Math 3. But sometimes worksheets will have these thrown in there. For these, I know Miss Martin goes ahead and teaches this in honors because it is helpful for pre-cal, but we don't have time for that, so we're not going to do that. And then you also see division. If you see F over G of X, this is F of X over G of X. Okay? So let's go straight to some problems. So we have two equations right here, and let me get rid of that there. We have two equations, F of X and G of X. Okay, and it's asking us to find all of these different things. We have already, found F of 3, right? We've already done some of that we did at the beginning. What we haven't really seen is, these big long strings of things, okay? So I'm going to show you how to do these by hand. I'm also going to show you how you can do them on Desmos, okay? Either one is okay with me. Of course, I'd always prefer for you to be able to do it by hand. But if you're desperate and need Desmos, they give it to us on the exam, so you might as well do it that way. So if I'm trying to find F of 3 plus G of 8, this F of 3 right here is telling me I need to take 3 and I need to plug it into F. So that would look like this, 3 times 3 minus 7. And I'm going to put an extra set of parentheses around this because this is this part right here. Okay, then that plus sign would be right there, and let me use a different color here. For G of 8, I would be taking 8 and plugging it into this equation right here. Okay, hey, hon, let me get you one of these papers. And so we've got G of 8 is going to be, I'm going to put an extra set of parentheses, square root of 8 minus 4 plus 2. Okay? So if we're doing order of operations here, 3 times 3 is 9. I'm just going to do this whole thing right here. Is that all right with you guys? We'll do the red separate and then we'll add them together. So 3 times 3 is 9. 9 minus 7 is 2. And then keep that plus sign right there in between. And then let's go over here and do the red. So I got to subtract first. So that's going to give me the square root of 4 plus 2. What is the square root of 4? 2. So that's just 2 plus 2. I'm going to scribble that right there. That's going to give me 4. Right? And then I just need to add them together. 2 plus 4 is going to give me 6. So 6 would be my final answer there. So it's like what we were already doing, just plugging those numbers in. It's just we got to do a little bit more with it, right? So they get a little bit more complicated. Now, let me show you another option, okay? A lot of students prefer this because, to me, if you are not great at, so pull this over here. That, there we go. Oh, let's get rid of that. Okay. Here's another option. Okay. Desmos. You are going to type in f of x equals 3x minus 7 on the top line. And you're going to tell it g of x equals square root of x minus 4 plus 2 on that second line. Make sure you got those things plugged in correctly. Okay. Now, some students prefer this because there's very little thinking involved if you do it this way. So some of your ears may have perked up and you're like, no thinking, that's for me. If I want to do number 2 and I just want to use Desmos, look what I do. 3g of 5 minus f of 1. The answer is 13. It just gives you the answer, right? I will agree if you're doing like several problems with the same equation over and over again, like we're doing here, it's easiest just to type it in. It's worth the time to type it in because it does it so fast. So if we wanted to do example 3, you guys try that one on Desmos for me. I'm going to freeze this so you can't see what I'm doing. Try that on Desmos. A hint, if you hit the division key first before you start typing it in, that way you'll have a top and bottom of your equation. It will work easier. All right, check with your neighbors, see if they're getting the same thing you're getting. Or if they're not getting anything because something's not working. See if you can help me fix it. Not working. So what Jonas has done, because I've noticed this about a lot of you guys, it'll still graph it if you don't put f of x equals and g of x equals. So a lot of y'all are like, Ms. Hyatt, why you keep doing that? You're wasting your time. If you don't type in f of x equals and g of x equals, it will not do this at all. So you have to put f of x equals 3x minus 7. You can't just have 3x minus 7 on that top line. Did you get it work now? Okay. All right, what are we getting? What's the answer? 13 was for example 2. What are we getting for 3? 1? Oh, I did it wrong. I got negative 22.5, but that is wrong. What did I, look at mine up here if you can see it well enough. What did I do wrong? Oh, sorry. I thought I unfroze it. There we go. What did I do wrong? I put an F right here instead of a G. So you do have to be careful if you use Desmos because, like, you do it so thoughtlessly, you're going to think you're right even when you're not. Let's change that to a G. Now I am getting 1. Is that what you guys got? Okay. So 1 is your answer for that. Okay. If you did not get 1, look at your neighbor, see if you can tell what you messed up on that. Check for your letters. Check to make sure your equations. Make sure. Let's see. I'm gonna do this. See if what I get. Because some of y'all are doing. If you get 1.878, you might have your square root line going all the way out. I know we were doing that a lot when we were graphing too. Oh. Okay. Everybody good? Okay. All right. Okay. Let's see. Let's go to the next one. Okay. Let's see. I want to do a couple of these by hand, just for the practice of doing these by hand. But then I'm gonna let you guys use Desmos on everything else. Let's do the hardest one by hand, just for practice. Now, I used different notes. Actually, let me show you this on Desmos. All right, let me try this on Desmos right here. Let's get the old stuff out. If I do f of x equals x squared minus 1 and g of x equals x plus 4. Okay? Now, if I try number 4 and I type it in like this, it does not like that. It's not giving me the answer. And I've got everything typed in just like it looks. The reason is because this is using a different kind of notation. Desmos does not like that notation. Okay? So we have to change it back to some notation that Desmos can take. This is the same thing as doing f of 2 plus g of 2. It's kind of like that 2 sort of gets distributed to both of those there. So you got f of 2 plus g of 2. So if I type it in that way, f of 2 plus g of 2, then I get 9. Okay, do you guys see what to do there? All right, what do you guys think I need to do on 5? How would I type that into Desmos? Okay, what goes between them? Minus g of... okay, so I see what you're doing there where you said positive 3. You actually don't like... You're doing g of negative 3, so it doesn't get like multiplied by that negative. It's different than having like just a number there. So we don't want to do that. We'll just put negative 3 with both of them. So you're basically just like splitting them apart. Both of them get the negative 3. Does that make sense? So if we type that in, f of negative 3 minus g of negative 3, we get 7. That is our answer there. All right. What about 6? What's that going to look like? F of 0, g of 0. What's happening between those two? Is it being added, subtracted, multiplied, divided? It's multiplied. If I just have 2 letters next to each other, it means multiplication. So for that one, I would type in f of 0 times g of 0. I just use the little star, but you also could use that button right there. We'll give you that multiplication. So I'm getting negative 4. Oh boy, what do we got to do for 7? So how would I type 7 into Desmos? You're doing f of 0 times g of 0 plus 2 f of 6. Like that. So we really can just add on to this right here. Plus 2 g of 6. What do we get? 16. Mm-hmm. Let's see. Let's see if I can see what is wrong with yours. You do not have your f and your g equations above, so it can't calculate it unless they're in there. So like where I've got on that top line, I've got f of x equals x squared minus 1 and g of x equals x plus 4. You have to have that in for it to calculate. Yeah. Mm-hmm. I did. Good gracious. What is wrong with me today? Okay, let's change it. What is it supposed to be? 66. Thank you, Lily. I'm losing it. Okay. All right, what would I type in for number 8? F of 1 plus F of 1, right? So that would look like this. F of 1 plus F of 1. I get 0. Okay? Questions? Okay, now here's the one we can't really use Desmos on. If they give us a graph, okay? You were already doing this last night with the piecewise functions. If I want f of -4, okay? -4 is right here, okay? I go up or down until I get to the point. That's this point right here. What is the value of f of -4? It is 2. I'm looking over there at that y-axis. Okay? Josiah, for number 10, f of 0, what would that be? It is 0. Very good. That's just on this point right here. The y-coordinate and the x-coordinate are both 0 right there. Let's see. Jeremy, what about f of 1? One is right here on our x-axis. We're going to go up or down until we hit the graph. This one's a little bit tricky because it kind of looks like it's 2 spots, but which one should I pick? The closed circle, which is this one. What's the y-coordinate for that point? -1. Very good. Okay. Victor, what about f of 3? It is 2. Very good. You're looking right here at 3. You're going to go up to this point right here. And the y-coordinate there is 2. Perfect. Okay. Let's see. Riley, what about f of -2? -4? Nope. That one's a tricky one also. Okay. Because -4 would be down here, but that one's open circle. You got to go up here. It's going to be 3 instead. Good job. All right. Let's see, Alex. What about the last one? F of -1. What? -1. Perfect. That's going to be this point right here, and its y-coordinate is -1. So we did some of that yesterday. Let's keep moving. All right. So let's look at this. Okay, we might not do all of it. How many more slides have I got? Is that 2 more after this? Okay. All right, so I've got f plus g of 2. Now I can't use Desmos on this because I don't have equations, right? So this equation is f of x. This one is g of x. So this means f of 2 plus g of 2. So we got to find f of 2 first. What is f of 2 looking at this graph? What do you think, Jonas? It is 0 because right here where your x-coordinate is 2, y-coordinate is 0. And then, Maya, what are we going to get for g of 2? 2. So it'll be 0 plus 2. We'll get 2 for that. Okay, I'm going to skip down to 18 because I'm just skipping so we can get through a little bit quicker. I've got f over g of 1. This is f of 1 over g of 1. Let's see. Trinity, what is f of 1? Perfect. Okay, because we're looking right here. 1. We're going up here. Y coordinates 2. Lovely. Joseph, what is g of 1? 3. And 2 won't really divide by 3, so we'll just leave that as a fraction. 2/3. Okay, do you guys get the idea there? Okay, questions? All right, let's see what else I got here. All right, okay, here's an example where, like, maybe you might not, you can still use Desmos. Oh, no, actually, no, you can't use Desmos. You cannot use Desmos on these. So you can use it to sort of check. All right, now, this time they're asking us to perform the operation, but we are not plugging in numbers this time, right? Because we're not doing like f of 1 plus g of 7. Both of them still have x's there. So whenever we have this f of x plus g of x, that means we're taking this equation and we're adding this equation, right? So that is going to look like this. X cubed plus 4x plus, it's red for this one, 2x plus 2. Now, the answers for these are still going to have x's in them, but we do want to simplify them if we can. Do we have anything we could combine here? The 2x and the 4x, that's going to give us what? X cubed plus 6x plus 2. So that would be our answer for that. Just adding your like terms, pretty much, yeah. Now, subtraction for number 20 is a little tiny bit trickier. It's not that bad, but students mess it up a lot. Because for this one, you're taking this equation and you're subtracting the second equation. And here's what you got to be careful of. You want to do, I didn't really put any parentheses on the first one. I could have if I wanted to. Parentheses are a lot more important whenever you're subtracting. You got to do negative x cubed minus x squared. Right here's why it's important. We're going to have that minus sign right there. And then we'll have 4x plus 3. The first parentheses are really kind of optional. The second are not. Because what have I got to do with this negative right here? Not really make it to a positive. It's like having a negative 1 right there. What do I need to do with that negative 1? Trinity's doing this, and she is right. What's that called whenever we do like that? Distribute. We're distributing. So we're going to distribute that negative. So that changes your signs right here, which is going to, you're going to miss it if you don't distribute. So the beginning's going to stay the same, because if you put something up here, it's just a positive 1, doesn't change the sign. So negative x cubed minus x squared stays the same. And then we'll have minus 4x minus 3. When you multiply by negative 1, it just changes the sign there. Do I have anything I can combine? I do not. Your exponents have to be the same to put those together. So I can't put x to the third and x squared together. So this would just be my answer. This big long thing here would be my answer. Okay. Questions? Okay. 21. 21 is really going to stretch into the most difficult of the things I'm going to ask you to do. All right, you got to multiply these two together. Okay, that will look like this. X minus 2 times 3x squared minus 2x. All right, how do I multiply those together? If you did like this, again, you would be right. We got to distribute, but we've got to distribute both numbers. So we're going to distribute this x here. So that's going to be x times 3x squared is 3x to the third power. You had 2 x's here, you had 1 x here. If you add them together, that's 3 x's altogether. Then we would have to multiply x times negative 2x. That is going to give us negative 2x squared. Then, we use a different highlighting color here. Then we've got to distribute that negative 2 to the second as well. So I'm going to do negative 2 times 3x squared, and that's going to give me negative 6x squared. And then I'm going to do negative 2 times negative 2x, and negative 2 times negative 2 gives me positive 4x. Some of you guys may have done it this way. In this, it's not going to be 4x squared because the 2 did not have an x with it. So you're doing negative 2 times negative 2 just gives you that positive 4, and there's only one x there between everything. Does that make sense? Here, you're going to get that negative 6. Here, like for this one right here, you do x times negative 2x. It's almost like you're counting the number of x's in those. Some of you guys may do it this way. I think Mr. Brown really likes to use the box. So this may seem more familiar to you, like doing x and negative 2, 3x squared and negative 2x. Does that look familiar to some of you? So you might like the box better, and that you're welcome to use the box. It's a good method to use. So here you're doing the same thing. 3x squared times x gives you 3x cubed. Here 3x squared times negative 2 gives you negative 6x squared. Here, negative 2x times x gives you negative 2x squared. And here, negative 2 times negative 2x is positive 4x. Notice that these 4 numbers I get in my box are the same as the 4 numbers I got here. So it's the same thing, just different methods of getting it. You can use whichever one is easiest to you. Do I have anything I can combine in that final answer? Negative 2x squared and the negative 6x squared. What's that give me when I put those two together? Negative 8x squared plus 4x there. The division one will simplify. I don't really want to do it right now because I don't think I gave you one of those. And that'll come up in rational equations later. We'll worry about it then. Okay. Questions on this part? That multiplying's the hardest one by far here. All right. And let's see. I don't think we'll do these. Oh, wait, we do need to do one like maybe number 25. Okay. 23, 24 are just like, they have numbers, so they're like the ones we were doing. You can type those in Desmos if you want. 25 you cannot type into Desmos because it is, it's got this y squared here. So what this is saying is that you're doing f of y squared times g of y squared. So that means you're plugging in y squared there for your variables in those different equations. So instead of having 3n plus 4, you're going to have 3y squared plus 4. And then instead of having n minus 2, you'll have y squared minus 2. Now, that one still needs to be simplified, right? Because we got to distribute on that one. How many of you like the box? How many are your box people? How many of you do it the other way? How many of you are like, no. How many box people do I have? Okay, do I have any others that like it the distributing way better? A couple of you. Okay, I think I got more boxes than distributors, but you can do it either way. If I'm going to do box here, but if you distribute, you get the same numbers on the inside. So you got 3y squared and a positive 4. You got y squared and a negative 2. So 3y squared times y squared is going to be 3y to the 4th. Y squared times 4 is going to be 4y squared. 3y squared times negative 2 is going to give me negative 6y squared. And then 4 times negative 2 will give me negative 8. If you do use the box, it's usually the diagonal that you can put together there most of the time. Not always, but most of the time. So we got 3y to the 4th. I got a negative 6y squared and a positive 4y squared. That's going to give me a negative 2y squared, and I'll have the minus 8 on the end for that. So I said the last one was the hardest. That one's actually even a little bit harder because you got to plug that y squared in, and you've got to multiply. Okay, questions? Okay, so